My husband's family claims I'm a gold digger, but what they find next shocks everyone. The Harrington mansion loomed like a castle, its marble columns soaring against the gathering evening clouds, full of secrets and lies. The air was thick with tension as Lívia stood at the entrance, her heart pounding like a drum, echoing through the grand foyer. This family reunion, meant to celebrate love and unity, felt more like a courtroom trial. Hushed whispers snaked through the crowd, accusations swirling around her like a storm. Gold digger, user, imposter. Each word struck her like a dagger, leaving her feeling small and vulnerable. The glittering chandeliers above flickered, casting eerie shadows that danced in the corners of the opulent hall. Lívia scanned the room, her palms clammy and her breath hitching. Every corner was filled with judging eyes, especially those of her sister-in-law, Marisol, who wore a tight smile that didn't quite reach her cold blue eyes. Marisol was a hawk, circling its prey, and today Lívia felt exposed, raw and shaking under the weight of familial disdain. "Look at her dress," one voice hissed. "No one spends that much unless they're after a fortune." The comments pierced through the sparkling laughter around her, and Lívia fought to stand tall, though her chest tightened with every disparaging glance. How could she prove her love against such relentless scrutiny? Suddenly, uneasy silence fell over the party. A family elder, clutching an ornate goblet, rose to speak. "It is time we address the legacy that binds us all." The air buzzed with anticipation, the room leaning closer, each face reflecting curiosity. Lívia held her breath, wondering what secret might be unearthed, what skeleton lurked in the beautifully decorated closets of the Harrington lineage. Then came the bombshell. "Our family is connected to the Ruiz crime family. A shadow lingering in our past," the elder proclaimed, his voice gravely serious. Gasps erupted from the crowd like cannon fire. Lívia's heart raced. Her mind became a cacophony of disbelief and fear. Could this be true? Could her dreams of a unified family crumble before her eyes? Marisol's expression twisted into a mix of glee and malice. It was as if she relished the chaos, ready to wield this dark truth against Lívia. "What an interesting twist, don't you think, sister-in-law?" she smirked, the threat clear in her tone. Lívia felt her stomach tighten. Her marriage to Marcos, her hope for acceptance, hung by a thread now. As the guests whispered and shuffled, a sudden memory flashed in Lívia's mind. A secret she had kept even from Marcos, of her own family ties to a tumultuous past, rife with debts and betrayal. Could she risk revealing this, knowing it might shatter the fragile trust she had? Ilt with him. Just when her thoughts spiraled, the tension cracked open with an unexpected sound. A child's laugh erupted, breaking the suffocating atmosphere and sending all eyes shifting towards a small figure playing by the grand staircase. In that moment, Lívia grasped for hope. Could this innocent laughter remind them that love is worth fighting for, no matter the past? But as she turned to seek solace in Marcos's embrace, she found him distracted, his gaze lost in the crowd, uncertainty shadowing his face. Doubts knotted in her stomach. Could she confront the dark legacy of the Harringtons without costing herself everything? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I have to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube canceled their subscriptions without warning. Just check out the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content coming up. And while you're there, leave that like. It helps me a lot with the algorithm. Oh, and let me know in the comments. What city are you watching the channel from? I love meeting all the amazing people who are part of this community. Your participation makes a difference. Let's interact. As Lívia stood frozen, her heart a wild drum in her chest, the room buzzed with disbelief. Murmurs surged like waves. Eyes darted between her and the elder, who remained an unexpected arbiter of truth. Just then, chaos erupted. A glass shattered against the marble floor, and everyone turned, startled. From the corner of the room, a figure emerged, and Lívia's breath caught in her throat. It was Marcos, his face pale and distorted with shock. "What do you mean connected to the Ruiz crime family?" he demanded, his voice rising above the clamor. The truth hanging in the room felt heavy. Like a storm darkening the horizon, Marisol's satisfied grin widened. "Maybe if you paid more attention, dear husband, you'd understand the family you married into," she sneered, daring him to dive deeper into this treachery. Lívia felt the weight of his gaze, her heart a swirling vortex of panic and desperation. Had she married into a web of crime, betrayal, and worse? Then, like a scene out of a horror movie, a loud bang reverberated through the mansion. A gunshot? Gasps erupted, glasses trembled in hands, and all eyes swung toward the staircase. There, just out of reach, stood a woman, her identity obscured in the shadows. She was cloaked in a long, dark coat, her hair cascading like a dark curtain around her face. In the instant that followed, Lívia felt a chill creep down her spine. "This," the woman said, her voice steady and chilling, "is not just a family reunion. It's a reckoning." Marcos paled further, his eyes narrowing. "Who are you?" His voice was hard, a bolt of steel slicing through confusion. "I am your sister," the woman said, stepping forward into the light. The room fell into a suffocating silence. Lívia's mind raced. Sister? But Marcos had no sister. Or did he? The skeleton in their family closet was more substantial than she had imagined. "What do you want?" Marcos barked, anger mingling with disbelief. The woman smirked, a dangerous glint in her eyes. "To save you from your family's legacy. You've been living a lie, all of you." Her gaze swept through the room, challenging anyone to counter her claim. The collective gasp was like a chorus of lightning striking the ground, illuminating the horrifying possibility that the Harringtons had deeper, darker ties to the underworld than anyone imagined. "And you're the one to tell us?" Marisol shot back, her bravado cracking under pressure. "What proof do you have?" The woman raised a hand, revealing an unfamiliar silver pendant hanging around her neck. "This belonged to our mother, the one you thought was gone forever." A visceral reaction rolled through the crowd. Gasps replaced whispers as shock spread like wildfire. Lívia felt her breath hitch as she processed this new reality. Who was this woman, and how could she possibly lay claim to their family? What was the truth about their mother? Turning to Marcos, Lívia searched his face for answers, for a glimmer of recognition. Instead, she found only a storm of confusion matching her own. The air thickened with uncertainty as she wondered if their love could withstand this unraveling. As laughter from the child nearby faded into the background, an unsettling truth dawned on Lívia. The very ground beneath their feet was shifting. What if everything she believed about her marriage was a fragile illusion? What if the ties that bound them were only threads waiting to snap? The room pulsed with energy, a community on the brink of chaos. One question lingered in the air, thick and heavy. How deep did the darkness of the Harringtons really go? Lívia's thoughts spiraled like leaves caught in a storm. The woman's declaration echoed through the hall, each word a blow to the gut. The air was charged with uncertainty, a thick fog of confusion spreading among the guests. Then a faint crackle disrupted the chaos, the unmistakable sound of the back door creaking open. Lívia turned toward the noise, her heart racing against her ribcage. A clamor of voices rose and fell, everyone's attention dividing between the mysterious woman and the entrance. It was as if the mansion itself was holding its breath, teetering on the edge of revelation. Suddenly, a figure stepped into the light. A man in a dark suit, sharp and menacing, moved into view. He had a scar running down the side of his cheek, an omen of danger that sent chills racing down Lívia's spine. She recognized him from news reports, faces of the fallen flashing in her mind. A member of the Ruiz crime family. "Didn't think you'd be here," he sneered, locking eyes with the mysterious woman, who remained resolute even in the face of peril. "You left us to rot, didn't you? You thought you could escape." Gasps echoed around the room as panic rippled like a wave. Marisol's smirk faded, replaced by a look of pure terror. Lívia felt a cold sweat gather on her brow. What had just happened? "I am not afraid of you," the woman declared, her voice steady. But Lívia could see the tremor in her fingers. The room felt even smaller, the walls closing in as fear coiled tighter around them. "Then perhaps you've forgotten just how powerful our family is," the man snarled. "You'd do well to remember." He took a step forward, and gasps turned into whispers full of dread. Lips quivered, eyes widened. Lívia stumbled backward, fear snaking through her veins. But that's when everything changed. The man pulled out a gun. Time to end this charade. Screams erupted. People dove for cover, scattering like leaves blown away by a strong wind. Lívia felt a surge of adrenaline. Marcos was frozen, his face a mask of shock. "Marcos, get down!" Lívia shouted, her voice hoarse, raw. Just as she lunged to grab his arm, a shot rang out, an explosion of sound that shattered the air. Tyne slow-motioned as the bullet raced across the space, heading straight for the mysterious woman. But in a flash, something unexpected happened. The woman dove to the side, and a figure rushed forward. Marcos. He moved faster than Lívia thought possible, sliding into the path of the bullet. A sickening thud echoed in the chaos, and everything froze. Lívia's heart sank like a stone. "No! Marcos!" she screamed, her voice raw. And broken. The world shifted. A tide of confusion and horror swept through the room. Blood pooled beneath him, a stark contrast against the white marble. "Marcos!" Lívia fell to her knees beside him. Gasping for breath, she felt the warmth of his blood seep into her fingers, a vivid scarlet against the cult of darkness that surrounded them. The mysterious woman stared, horror mingled with grief, as if this moment crushed her very essence. "I didn't want this." The man stepped back, stunned. "What have you done?" Suddenly the power shifted. Everyone's fear now pointed at him. The once confident cockiness vanished like smoke in the gust of chaos. Lívia's eyes burned with tears as she cradled Marcos's head. "Stay with me, please." Panic clawed at her throat. In that fragile moment, doubt faded. Love surged forth, furious and fierce. But what could she do? The room spun, breaths faltering like a song coming to an abrupt end. A shattered silence hung heavy as fear gripped them all. Was this the end? There was only one question that mattered now. Who would pay the price for this shocking betrayal? Livia's world twisted in a kaleidoscope of horror. As she knelt beside Marcos, blood soaking through her fingers, the chaos around them transformed into a nightmare. Eyes widened in shock, mouths agape, the room fell silent. Time seemed to stretch, each heartbeat echoing in her ears. "Stay with me, please," she cried, her voice cracking under the weight of desperation. Marcos's eyes fluttered, pupils dilating in fear. "Lívia," he whispered, his voice frail, barely a breath. The room, once filled with judgment and disdain, shifted to an eerie stillness. Even Marisol, with her icy demeanor, now looked paralyzed by the sudden plunge into chaos. "Call an ambulance!" a distant voice shouted, but it was lost in the turmoil. Panic hung thick in the air, together with the metallic scent of blood. Each guest stood frozen, like a tableau, etched with disbelief and dread. No one spoke, no one moved. Then, from the shadows, the mysterious woman stepped closer, her face pale as death. "I can help him!" she exclaimed, her voice louder now, a spark of urgency igniting inside her. Lívia looked up, her fears mingling with a glimmer of hope. "What do you mean?" The woman's gaze darted to the man in the dark suit, whose expression twisted from cruelty to something akin to panic. "You're a fool to interfere," he hissed, but something in her steely resolve made him hesitate. With a sudden, unexpected motion, she pulled a small vial from inside her coat, filled with a shimmering liquid. "This is a remedy, our family's secret," she declared, her voice steady. "It can save him." But Lívia's heart raced with doubt. "What kind of remedy? Is it safe?" "Trust me," the woman urged, eyes sharp and pleading. "It's the only chance, I swear it." Everything inside Lívia screamed at her to hesitate. Connecting this stranger to hope felt like summoning the impossible. But the sight of Marcos fading fast cracked her resolve. "What do I have to lose?" "Do it!" she shouted, her voice breaking through the fear. With trembling hands, the woman poured the liquid into Marcos's mouth. The glimmering substance sliding down his throat. Lívia held her breath, time stretching long and taut. Would it work? Everyone watched, breaths held. The haunted air filled with electric anticipation. Moments felt like hours, until suddenly Marcos gasped, his body jerking as he fought for breath. "What?" he croaked, his eyes wildly searching. But the room held its breath as the sound of sirens blared from a distance, growing louder, more urgent. It felt as if the universe clung to this moment, waiting with bated breath. Then Marcus turned to look at his wife. "Lívia, I can't." Before he could finish, the walls of the mansion shook under a deafening explosion. Glass shattered, debris rained down, and the ground beneath them trembled. The party erupted into chaos, screams slicing through the air. The man in the suit bolted, only to be engulfed in the rush of panicked guests fleeing toward the exit. "Lívia!" Marco shouted, struggling to rise, his pain palpable but his spirit igniting. "We need to get out of here!" But before Lívia could pull him up, the mysterious woman seized Marcos's arm, her grip fierce. "You can't go out there! It's a trap!" "What do you mean?" Marcos growled, shaking her off, his instincts screaming that danger lurked. The woman stepped back, her voice quaking with emotion. "Because I've seen it all before! The family isn't just tied to the crime world. They are the crime world." Gasps spread through the crowd, confusion blending into horror as the weight of her words sank in. Ties that had once seemed thin and frayed, now wrapped them tightly in fear and blood. Who could they trust? And just when they thought clarity prevailed, Lívia felt a twisting in her gut. If her family, with their tumultuous past, connected to his, what had she really married into? The undercurrents of deception surged like a rippling tide, threatening to pull her under. "Save us," Marcos whispered, vulnerability cracking through him. The eyes of the crowd that had once accused now carried a flicker of hope amid the darkness. Could this truly be their moment of reckoning, or merely the prelude to a more profound betrayal? But as the sirens wailed closer, a question lingered in the air. Who among them would break? First, chaos erupted in the hall, cries mingling with the sound of sirens. Lívia could barely focus on anything but the blood pooling beneath Marcos. "Stay with me," she begged again, feeling the warmth slipping from him like sand through her fingers. The mysterious woman stood frozen, her eyes darting between Marcos and the man with the scar, who was inching back toward the door, uncertainty painting his features. "This isn't over," he spat, but fear lingered behind his bravado. Lívia barely registered his words. She was far too consumed by the man she loved, fighting for breath, fighting for life. A cacophony of chaos swirled around them. Shadows danced in the flickering light, and whispers of dread lingered in the air. The tension, thick as brick, surrounded them like a suffocating fog. "Get an ambulance!" someone shouted, but it seemed like a distant plea amidst the panic. As she pressed her hands against Marcos's wound, she felt the slick warmth, and her heart squeezed. "What are we going to do? Please, stay with me." Then that moment turned from frantic to surreal. The mysterious woman leaned closer, her focus sharp, her voice commanding. "I can help him. But you must trust me. You have to believe in the legacy this family hides." Before Lívia could voice her doubt, the room shook once more. A deafening crash diverted all eyes. The doors burst open, and two more men in dark suits stormed in, guns drawn, their expressions deadly serious. "What the hell is going on?" one shouted, scanning the crowd, pinpointing the mysterious woman. She seemed unfazed, her composure unbreakable under pressure. "It's them! They've come to settle old scores!" Lívia's mind raced. Old scores? What did she mean? She remembered the tales of revenge, whispered in the corners of family gatherings. The Ruth family's enemies, lurking like shadows. Suddenly, the woman lunged, grabbing Lívia's arm. "Follow me if you want to save him." Lívia hesitated, fear battling with the burning need to save Marcos. But the moment stretched, frozen in time. That's when something inside her snapped. "What do you know?" she demanded, her voice trembling but defiant. Before the woman could respond, the first man shouted again. "You think you can just waltz in here and claim your place? I doubt anyone's going to let you walk out alive." That's when it happened. Amid the yelling and confusion, the woman turned and shouted, "Zara, stop this madness!" Silence fell. It sliced through the chaos, sharp and brutal. The new arrivals froze, their guns lowered slightly. Lívia's heart stuttered. Zara? As in her mother? The name echoed like a ghost, rising from the shards of her past. Marcus's eyes widened, filling with disbelief. "What did you just say?" I am Zara's daughter. The truth was hidden from you, from all of us," the woman cried, desperation lining her tone. "This family, it's all a facade. Our mother was at the center of something unimaginable, and it's time you knew." Lívia felt the ground shake beneath her. Reality wavered like a mirage. You can't be serious. Then, in a moment as torrential as a storm, the man with the gun stepped forward, a twisted smile spreading across his face. Oh, isn't this a delightful twist? Family ties bind, don't they? Isn't that what we always say? Livia's blood ran cold, a chill slithering up her spine. Everything her family had concealed, everything Marcos had worked so hard to protect, was it all about to unravel? Suddenly, as clarity dawned, her world shattered into fragments. Was this woman lying? Or was she really connected to the truth? The shards of mystery clicked together, revealing a dark past she never anticipated. Who was telling the truth? Could she trust anyone? With the sirens blaring louder, led by uncertainty that threatened to engulf them all, one question loomed over Livia's heart. Had she married into a legacy of lies? And if so, what would it cost to unearth them? Lívia felt the air thicken, pulse racing as the chaos unfolded around her. The man with the scar stood rigid, his anger morphing into a nervous energy as everyone wrestled with the unfolding truth. When the word Zara escaped the mysterious woman's lips, it was as if the universe shifted slightly, air crackling with the weight of unspoken secrets. What do you mean, Zara's daughter? Marcos's eyes searched the woman's, desperation painting his features. Before she could respond, the tension exploded. The door burst open again, slamming against the wall, another man rushing in. This one was different. Wild-eyed, with a frantic energy that seemed to seep into the walls around him. "It's happening! They're coming!" he shouted, his voice shaking. "What do you mean?" Lívia pressed, panic fueling her urgency. "They know you're here! We have to leave!" He broke into a sprint, scanning the room. But before anyone could react, a loud crash echoed outside, followed by screams from the guests. The scene morphed into a whirlwind of horror as people scrambled for the exits, afraid of what lurked beyond. "Marcos, we need to go!" Lívia cried, her heart pounding against her ribs. The room had turned into a battlefield, and she could see the fear dancing in everyone's eyes. But just then, the mysterious woman interrupted, her voice commanding. "If we leave now, we'll only fall into their hands. We need to expose the truth." "What truth?" someone shouted from the crowd, confusion turning to chaos. Lívia kept her eyes on Marcos, clinging to any sense that they were in this together. Everything you think you know is a lie. Suddenly, from across the room, Marisol's laugh pierced through the noise, cold and mocking. "What are you trying to imply? That she's anything but a charlatan?" Lívia couldn't believe the audacity on her sister-in-law's face. "Silence her," the man with the scar demanded. Two figures moved toward Marisol, but something shifted in the tension. A moment that stretched into eternity. Just as it seemed violence was imminent, the house itself convulsed, a terrible sound reverberating from the foundations. With a bone-rattling loud crash, the ceiling above them collapsed, debris raining down like confetti of destruction. Screams erupted, shouts of terror echoing. "Get down!" Lívia screamed, pushing Marcos to the ground, covering him with her body. The room spun, dust swirling in the air. For a moment, darkness clawed at the edges of her vision. Then silence. Lívia blinked, pushing herself up, the world returning in a haze. What were once grand walls stood jagged, a haunting silhouette against the dim light. She looked around, shock pinching her insides. Was anyone hurt? Fear gripped her heart. But Marcos? "Marcos!" Lívia cried, her voice trembling. He was still there, his eyes wide, breaths ragged. Then she turned, her breath caught. The mysterious woman stood again, but not unaffected. She moved toward the man with the scar. A wild look in her eyes. "You've betrayed us." Everyone froze. "What do you mean?" he asked, stepping back, skin paling as the realization hit him. "I know what you did." Her voice trembled with defeat. "You're the reason our family fell apart. You manipulated them, sent them after my mother. Stop right there." He laughed, but it rang hollow. "You think they'll listen to you now?" That's when he did it. He pulled out a small switch, a device. "We've been waiting for this moment. You'll all pay for your betrayal." Suddenly the walls trembled again, an ominous beeping echoing through the air. Panic surged. "What did you just do?" Marcos screamed, scrambling to his feet. As people began to retreat, the woman's expression shifted. A wild mix of anger and regret flashed through her eyes. "You shouldn't have trusted me!" Livia's heart raced. "What's going to happen?" "They've set us up!" the mysterious woman yelled, urgency clawing in her tone. "Everything is about to change." In that moment, an explosion rocked the mansion. Light blared, blinding and fierce, swallowing everything. The last thing Lívia remembered was a shrieking cry before darkness enveloped her. And in that hollow silence, the truth of her shattered world hung heavy in the air. How deep were their ties to this chaos? What awaited them in this unraveling disaster? The explosion hit like a freight train. Darkness roared around Lívia, drowning her in a swirling void. She gasped, struggling to breathe as debris rained down, pain flaring through the cacophony. The world had become a horrifying blur of noise, disarray, and terror. "Marcos!" Her voice cracked as she fought to find him in the chaos. She could barely see through the dust, the air thick with panic. "Lívia!" His voice, weak but alive, cut through the noise. She scrambled toward it, her heart racing. Each breath a fight. The dim light flickered back, revealing fractured walls and terrified faces. Marcos lay on the ground, his shirt stained with blood, but alive. I'm here," he managed, his eyes searching. There was fear, but also something else. Determination. The mysterious woman stood, dodging falling debris, her face set in grim resolve. She met Lívia's gaze. "We need to move, now!" Lívia nodded, yet the urgency slipped away as she felt it. A cold hand wrapping around her heart. A memory surged, clearer than the chaos. When she was a child, hiding in a closet while the storm raged outside. The shadow of a man lurking at the door, beckoning with promises that twisted into nightmares. "Get off the ground!" The strain in Marcos's voice pulled her back. "We can't stay here." But before she could help him up, that same man, the one with the scar, emerged from the shadows, fear etched across his features. "They're coming! We have to go, now!" The once cocky demeanor was gone, replaced by desperation. Lívia felt a ripple of uncertainty in her chest. What was happening? Who was he afraid of? As the group scrambled to their feet, a deafening crash echoed from behind them, sending everyone into a frenzy. People cried out as they began to flee. But Lívia froze. The weight of the moment hit like a wave. Would they all make it? "Lívia!" Marcus's voice cut through her thoughts. She turned to him, fear twisting tightly around them. "Don't think, just run." And run they did. They made it to the front door, but as they pushed through, something sharp pierced the air, slicing through the chaos like a knife. A metallic clang, and in an instant, lights flickered off. Darkness enveloped them once again. No, not now! Lívia's heart raced. Breaths quickened, panic clawing at her throat. She felt the weight of eyes upon her, dread clawing through the shadows. And then it hit her. A realization so devastating, it stopped her in her tracks. "Marcos!" she shouted, her voice shaking. "We need to get to the car!" But as they turned to leave the mansion, the mysterious woman stepped in front of them. "No, you can't go out there." "Why?" Lívia pleaded, confusion spiraling in her chest. "What do you know?" "It's a trap. They're waiting for you, both of you." "Who?" Marcos bit out, every muscle tense. "Your family," the woman said, her voice trembling, eyes wide with urgency. "They're all part of this. Your name, your history, you don't even know. The connection." Lívia's heart raced. "What do you mean?" Before she could get an answer, another explosion whipped through the air, a deafening roar. The ground beneath them shook violently, sending debris flying. She fell to her knees, arms bracing against the ground. "Lívia, look out!" Marcos shouted. And in that moment, everything changed again. The woman, eyes darting with fear, lunged forward, shoving Lívia aside, taking her place just as another figure appeared from the shadows. A man in a black suit, eyes burning with rage, gun drawn. Bang! A shot rang out, echoing. Time froze. The woman fell back, stunned, eyes wide with disbelief. "No!" Marcos screamed, reaching out for her. But she collapsed, blood blooming across her chest. The world shifted again, roaring with chaos, screams filling the air. Lívia could only stare in shock as the woman's body crumpled to the ground. But in that second, another realization slammed into her. The woman wasn't just some mysterious stranger. She was tethered to them in ways they couldn't comprehend. Past, blood, betrayal, all intertwined in one tragic moment. "Get her! We have to go! Now!" Panic surged through Lívia as she grasped Marcos's hand, terror clawing at her throat. Would they escape this? Her heart raced. Was this unraveling the truth, or the beginning of something even darker? As they stumbled through the door, a new question burned in her mind. What else were they running from? Lívia felt the air thicken, pulse racing as the chaos unfolded around her. The man with the scar stood rigid, his anger morphing into a nervous energy. And everyone wrestled with the unfolding truth. The moment she thought Marisol could not get any more wicked, dismissing the blood on the floor like a bad joke, she saw the shift in the room. "Now it's not just about you, Lívia," Marisol sneered, her voice colder than ice. "This is about family legacy, our legacy." "Shut up, Marisol!" Marcos shouted, pushing past the fear to protect Lívia. "We need to escape." But before anyone could take another breath, the sound of an incoming vehicle reverberated from outside. Tires screeched to a halt, and the throaty roar of engines drowned the tension alive. "What now?" someone shouted from the back of the room, eyes darting toward the source of the sound. "I don't know," Marcos yelled back, panic clawing at his throat. "But we have to!" The doors slammed open, and a group of armed men poured into the room, faces familiar, belonging to the Ruiz crime family. Fear rippled through the crowd. Lívia's breath came in shallow gasps. How could this get any worse? While chaos erupted all around them, the mysterious woman shoved close to Marcos and Lívia. "You don't understand. They're here for you both. They think you—" But before she could finish, a deep voice thundered above the clamor. "There's no escape for you now. The truth comes out tonight." Every eye turned to the man who emerged from the shadows, holding a familiar pendant, one identical to the one the woman had worn earlier. The room descended into stunned silence, confusion mingling with horror. "Who are you?" Marcos demanded, anger snapping through the fear. "I'm the one who saw it all. The one who witnessed your mother's betrayals," he spat, pointing suddenly at the mystery woman. "You thought you could change your fate, Zara's daughter?" "Zara?" Lívia's voice cracked, realizing the weight of what was unfolding. "She's your sister? But that means—" The woman turned swiftly, disbelief washing over her features. "No, that can't be. I'm the only—" Suddenly, the older man stepped between them. "You didn't know, did you? Your entire existence is built on deceit. You were born from a line of criminals." The room erupted again, a chorus of gasps and angry murmurs combining as everyone tried to grasp the devastation. "I've protected you both from the underworld's mistakes," he continued, his voice low but full of intensity. "But now, it's time to face it all." Just then, the mysterious woman's face shifted, her expression morphing from shock to a chilling realization. "No, you're lying. You can't be." "Am I?" he chuckled, dark amusement lighting his eyes. "You've seen how far the rabbit hole goes. But the truth is, you're just as involved." Panic coursed through Lívia as she watched the bonds around her fray. They weren't just linked by love anymore. Everything was tainted by crime, bitterness, and a legacy that loomed like a dark shadow over them. "Why would you put us through this?" Marcos shouted at him, voice rising over the chaos. "Because," he said, drawing closer, eyes fixated on Marcos. "It's about time you realize who you truly are. Your bloodline ties to the Ruiz family run deeper than any of you ever imagined." In that moment, it felt as if the room was spinning out of control. The floor twisted beneath them, and Lívia's heart pounded louder than the chaos. Everything they thought they knew, the relationships, the love, the fight to survive, had been underpinned by a darkness so profound it could tear them apart permanently. What now? What kind of monster had she truly married into? As shock morphed into a desperate plea, she couldn't help but wonder, were they ever really safe? Lívia's heart pounded painfully in her chest as the man's words sank in, each syllable a dagger twisting deeper. Your bloodline ties to the Ruiz family run deeper than any of you ever imagined. The shockwaves rippled through the room, faces twisting in disbelief, emotions flickering like candle flames caught in the wind. She could feel eyes darting from the man, to her, to the woman crumpling to the ground, and back again. "Enough!" Marcos shouted, fists clenched, stepping between Lívia and the man. "You're lying. This is all bullshit." But the man laughed, a cold, empty sound. "You really think you can deny blood? It's in your veins. You can't escape." Lívia squeezed her eyes shut, trying to shut out the noise, the chaos. In that moment, despair threatened to swallow her whole. Every effort to build a life with Marcos felt like sand slipping through her fingers. But when she opened them again, determination bloomed. She would not go down without fighting. But before she could voice her thoughts, the ceiling trembled and a shadow loomed over them. The ground quaked violently as another explosion erupted outside, shaking the very foundation of the mansion. Screams echoed, a chorus of panic rising. The lights flickered and died, plunging the room into darkness. "Let's go!" Marcos urged, reaching for her. Just then, the armed men stormed in. "Get down!" one yelled as they took aim. The air buzzed with tension and chaos, bodies ducking and scrambling for safety. Lívia instinctively grabbed Marcos, pulling him to the ground, heart racing. "Please, just keep moving," she urged, but the commotion distracted her. A loud crack echoed as something heavy fell nearby. Then, a deafening silence cut through the chaos. Everyone froze, the tension thick enough to feel. And that's when it happened. With a sudden, blinding flash, a figure stepped through the doorway, bathed in light. All eyes turned, squinting against the glare. In that moment, time felt suspended. Everything narrowed down to the heart-stopping reveal. It was Zara, but she was different. No longer the timid shadow from before. Now she radiated a wild power, something primal. The gunfire fell still. "Enough!" she called out, voice filled with an commanded strength that brooked no argument. "Zara?" Lívia whispered, dread washing over her. "Yes, it's me," she said sharply, locking eyes with the man, the scar on his cheek now much clearer. "And you haven't played your hand wisely, brother." A collective gasp filled the space, shock rippling through the crowd again. Brother? This man was her brother? The pieces began to tumble down like dominoes, and Lívia's chest tightened. Secrets began to spill, exposing years of buried betrayal. "I'm the one who pulled the strings, orchestrating everything since the day you were born," Zara continued, her tone slicing through the fear hanging thick in the air. "Mom never really left. She was kept alive." "Kept alive?" Marcos repeated, bemusement flickering in his eyes. "She's hiding. All of this. The crime family, the chaos. It was to protect you from discovering the truth too late," Zara exclaimed, fervor igniting her voice. "I am the one who can save us from this nightmare." But before any of them could process that revelation, chaos erupted. The original armed man, that unwavering center of dread, lunged at Zara. "You are nothing. We'll finish what our family started." In a split-second action, Zara drew a weapon, a glint of metal reflecting the dim light, and shot him point blank. The shockwave rocked the room. "Zara, no!" Lívia screamed, but horror eclipsed the panic. As the man crumpled, a cascade of realization fell over them. The fight wasn't just between families, it was in blood, intertwined destinies. And then the narrative shifted with that one shot. "This is not just about revenge anymore," Zara said, panting, emotions raw. "This is about taking back what is rightfully yours. You two are the key to ending this." For a fleeting moment, hope flickered, even as fear clawed at the edges. But who could they trust now? In that turmoil, a million questions thundered through Lívia's heart. Was Marcos truly just a pawn in this game of crime? What lay ahead for them now? Are we really the keys? She wondered aloud, as everything she thought she knew began to crumble. As sirens wailed closer, an electrifying energy filled the room, and in that moment of uncertainty, one question loomed large. Could they turn the tide against a lifetime of shadows? Lívia's heartbeat roared in her ears as she stared at Zara, who stood defiant. The crimson stains on her shirt contrasted sharply against the dim light, illuminating her sacrifice. "You both have a choice," Zara declared, voice trembling but resolute. "We can end this together." The panic in the room morphed into a desperate energy, collective fear morphing into a faint flicker of hope. As the armed figures hesitated, glancing at one another in uncertainty, Marcos instinctively moved closer to Lívia, drawing strength from her. "We can expose the truth," Zara urged, looking directly at them. "This family has buried secrets, secrets that have caused enough bloodshed. We need to unite." Marcos held Lívia tightly, eyes darting around. "But what if they come after us again? How do we trust you?" Zara's gaze softened, shattering the hard exterior she had been holding on to. Because we are family, whether we like it or not. Her voice raised, echoing off the crumbling walls. We must take control of our fate. Just then, another explosion rocked the ground outside, sending tremors through the floor. Cries of fear ignited there, desperation turning chaos into a palpable force. The noise sliced through Lívia's thoughts like a knife, pulling her back to the immediate reality. Now's not the time to hesitate, Zara shouted, rallying those around her. If we want to survive, we have to act. Marcos nodded, fear giving way to resolve. Then let's do it. For us. For her. With that, he looked at Lívia, determination blazing in his eyes. We can't let this be the end. Gripping each other's hands tightly, they turned towards the doorway. The chaos outside hinted at something monumental. And they would either face it together or let it consume them. Rushing through the doorway, the three of them sprinted past the wreckage. They barreled into the night, where the stars flickered above like distant hopes. They didn't slow down, weaving through the debris and chaos. "We need to get to my car," Marcos shouted, guiding them through the masked figures and the fray. Zara glanced back, her eyes filled with urgency. "Keep moving." She could sense danger lingering behind them, threats crawling closer. In that fleeting moment of escape, Lívia thought of all that had led them here. Their family's tangled web, the lies binding them, and the unearthed truths threatening to drown them. The light of the car flickered in the distance, its engine roaring to life. They reached it, breathless but alive, and jumped inside. "Unlock the doors!" Marcos yelled. Zara wasn't far behind, slamming the back door shut. "We can't go back to the mansion. They'll find us there," Lívia whispered, panic clawing at her chest. "We'll head to the coast," Marcos said, desperately turning the key in the ignition. "There's a safe place. I know someone who can help." With a screech, they shot out into the night. The chaos of the mansion faded behind them, but the fight was far from over. They had escaped the flames, but the shadows of their past were close on their heels. As they drove toward uncertainty, emotions swirled. Fear, hope, anger, all racing through them. The future was built on shaky ground, but they had each other. "Whatever happens next," Zara said, finally breaking the silence in the car, "we face it together." Lívia nodded, her heart breaking, but alive with possibility. Could they really break the cycle? As the coastline blurred in the moonlight, their past whispered through the darkness, a haunting tune still left to be discovered. Would they be able to unearth the truth in time? And just as everything felt on the verge of clarity, a shadowy figure appeared by the roadside, holding a familiar pendant. "You can't run from your fate," the figure called out, enveloping them in mystery once more. "Let the truth chase them. Before you go, it's your turn to dive deeper into this adventure. Immediately subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on the thrilling stories coming your way. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and keep the passion alive. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this jaw-dropping ending. And, for goodness sake, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to know this outcome. You must sign up now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait one more second to share the excitement.